there's another chance to see Richard putting his dastardly deed into action. That's in Coronation Street, over on ITV2 now. Meanwhile, here on Anglia, we have a roundup of Sunday's top stories.
Bush officials warn UN it must act quickly against Iraq. Harry's 18th birthday wish to keep his mother's memory alive. And row over plans to publish Michael Barrymore's new book.
The ITV Weekend News with Shuli Ghosh.
Good evening. Britain and America tonight issued stark warnings to Saddam Hussein as they prepare to intensify the pressure against him. Secretary of State Colin Powell insisted America could go it alone if the UN refuses to act. And Britain's Foreign Secretary Jack Straw said the government dossier on Saddam will show he's developing weapons of mass destruction. Here's Robert Moore.
President Bush arrived back at the White House this afternoon, knowing that a crucial week of diplomacy lies ahead. He is continuing to warn that if the UN fails to confront the issue of Iraq's weapons, American military power will do the job, alone if necessary. The President's closest advisers have also been insisting today that this time arms inspectors must have total and unconditional access.
The Iraqi regime can have no say in what is required of it. We've been down that road before. It's done nothing but weaken the resolutions that the Security Council had passed.
We hope the United Nations will meet its responsibilities at this time, but the President always has the option of doing whatever he believes is necessary to defend U.S. interests. So it doesn't mean that if the UN fails to act, the United States won't act.
A concerted effort is underway to build the case for military action if diplomacy fails. The British government aiming to convince doubters with a dossier that will be released in 9 days' time. It may include satellite photographs showing plants that the government says are involved in chemical and biological weapons production. Saddam Hussein is under greater pressure than at any time since the end of the Gulf War. The Iraqi dictator appearing defiant, but knowing this time a US-led military attack will be targeting both his weapons programs as well as his own leadership.
One of the astonishing things for me, who has read through the hundreds of pages of weapons inspectors' reports, is how people up to now have not actually applied themselves to already published sources about the evil nature of this regime. But alongside digesting a digest of that information, there will be as much of the product of intelligence as we can safely reveal.
As the pressure on Iraq mounts, the Americans are expressing great satisfaction on another front, describing the arrest in Karachi amid a gun battle of Ramzi bin al-Shibi as a vital development in the war against al-Qaeda. Bin al-Shibi has reportedly described himself as the man who coordinated the 4 hijackings on September the 11th. The arrests in Pakistan are seen as a major breakthrough, but in the coming days the switch in focus will be back to Iraq and intensive diplomacy in New York. The intention to get a UN resolution that provides Saddam Hussein with a clear ultimatum. Robert Moore, ITV News, Washington.
Prince Harry, who's celebrating his 18th birthday today, has promised to keep the memory of his mother, Princess Diana, alive by continuing her charity work. To mark his coming of age, ITV News was granted special access to film the Prince. Here's our royal correspondent, Tom Bradby.
Prince Harry turns 18 today, and he does so with a clear message. He wants to make sure his mother's legacy is not obscured. Princess Diana was president of the Great Ormond Street Hospital, and his visit here was the most poignant part of a day designed to continue her work. Princess Diana and Prince Charles were joint patrons of the Wishing Well appeal that raised £54 million for a new building at the hospital. Princess Diana went on to become its president. Since her death, the post has not been filled. The day had begun with a visit to a drop-in centre. The kids' company tries to help vulnerable children by offering them a supportive environment. Next, a demonstration by Merlin, a charity dealing in crisis healthcare. By now, he was visibly relaxing into his new role.
No hands, sorry.
Next, West Ham and a project that aims to use the lure of the club to direct children who've had problems at school back into education. Harry accepted the offer to step up to the penalty spot. To some extent, this whole exercise aimed to portray a different side to Harry, but the message he wanted to get across did centre around his mother. He's been greatly upset by the endless revelations about her private life. She had more guts than anyone, he told us when the day was over. Tom Bradby, ITV News.
The BBC has defended its decision to publish a new book by Michael Barrymore, for which it's thought he'll be paid £500,000. It says an account of the death of Stuart Lubbock contains nothing that hasn't already been revealed to the police and the coroner. Here's Harry Smith.
The revelation that Michael Barrymore is to write a book after refusing to answer questions at an inquest has provoked fierce criticism. The book is said to be a warts and all account of the entertainer's life, but it's being updated to include the events at Barrymore's Essex home last March when Stuart Lubbock was found dead in the swimming pool. Despite an extensive police investigation, Mr. Lubbock's family still don't know how he died or why. A coroner last week returned an open verdict. Amid calls for them to withdraw from the book deal, the publishers, BBC Worldwide, said today, "There is nothing in the book relevant to the investigation into Mr. Lubbock's death, which has not already been divulged to the police or coroner's court." In another twist, Mr. Barrymore's ex-wife, Cheryl, alleges that he lied while giving evidence at the inquest. There was no response at Mr. Barrymore's home at Roydon in Essex today, but his solicitor denied the claim. If Mr. Barrymore was hoping that publication of this book might help him close this chapter in his life, then he could be wrong. It's now been confirmed that the coroner who carried out the inquest into Mr. Lubbock's death is looking into the allegations that during his evidence he committed perjury. Harry Smith, ITV News, Roydon in Essex.
Some A-level exam boards are tonight facing unprecedented legal action in a growing row over dumbing down. It follows allegations from many head teachers that more pupils were failed this year to prove the exams hadn't been made easier. Here's Angus Walker.
A disturbing number of A-level students have been spotting erratic exam marks when they studied how they were awarded their grades. Now schools and parents are asking their own questions.
My daughter's psychology results, she'd scored 100 out of 100 on one of the two exams, full marks, and yet on the other exam she'd failed it completely. So there was clearly something very wrong. This is a student who was expecting an A grade and is going to university to read psychology.
Laura Ween's C in psychology meant she missed out on her first choice of university.
It's obvious that there's something wrong with these results and you know, it's just quite unsettling because everyone wants to know what they really got.
The Oxford and Cambridge and RSA exam boards are being accused by head teachers of failing more students this year to prove A-levels have not been dumbed down. The Qualifications and Curriculum Authority has begun an investigation, but schools are now planning to take legal action over a suspected scandal that threatens the integrity of the entire exam system. Angus Walker, ITV News.
Football and Tottenham are second in the Premiership tonight after beating West Ham 3-2 at White Hart Lane. West Ham had equalised after Paolo Di Canio's free kick was met by Trevor Sinclair. But 2 minutes from the end, Anthony Gardner's deflected shot gave Spurs the winner. That's it. I hope you've had a good weekend. From all the team here, have a very good night.
Powergen, controlling energy for homes and business.
Good evening. Well, every picture paints a story, and this was the rather cloudy picture through today. Sunshine proving rather elusive, and some weak fronts in the far north will be producing some light rain here over the next 24 hours. But generally, high pressure will ensure that most places remain essentially dry, and that'll be the story through much of the coming week. So tonight, most places dry, if rather cloudy. Later on tonight, we could well see some thicker fog patches forming as we did last night, particularly across northern parts of Britain. Lowest temperatures around about 8 or 9 degrees. So rather foggy start in some places, and that fog will be loath to clear through the morning, so rather dodgy rush hour in a few spots, but generally no real problems. A lot of cloud, some brightness, but not a lot. I think probably the best of the sunshine in the afternoon. We're down across some southwestern parts of the UK, a pleasant afternoon to come here. But elsewhere, yes, dry, but disappointingly cloudy generally. So temperatures, I think, will be slow to rise. In the foggy areas, it could be quite cool, but generally we should get into the high teens. 18, for example, is 64 Fahrenheit with fairly light winds. That's it. Good night.
PowerGen, controlling energy for homes and business.